podcast where truth moves faster than a Holstein calf. No waiting on some pretty page. We're charting new ground in the digital age. From genomic codes to ROI facts, we cut through the noise, no holding back. Not your daddy's dairy news tonight. We're sparking debates with every insight. The ring's not where the real fight's at. It's in the data, in the channel chat. From pasture to processor to your morning cup, we're raising the stakes. Try and get ahead of herd. Yeah! Where the future's more than just a word. Ahead of herd. Come on! The bullvine's calling, let your voice be heard.
Welcome to the Bullvine Podcast, where we challenge conventional wisdom in the dairy industry with data-driven insights that matter to your bottom line. I'm your host, and today we're diving into a topic that's going to ruffle some feathers in breed society boardrooms across North America. We're asking the uncomfortable question that most industry leaders won't touch. When was the last time a breed convention banquet actually improved your herd's milk production or reduced your feed costs? If you're struggling to answer that, you're not alone. Here's the brutal math that's shaking up the industry. While U.S. dairy operations have collapsed from over 70,000 farms to just 24,000 in the past 20 years, breed conventions are still operating like it's 1985. Today, 66% of all U.S. PAL milk comes from operations with 1,000 or more cows, yet breed societies are still hosting hotel ballroom events designed for the extinct 74-cow family farm. We're going to expose the $500 plus convention cost reality, reveal why Holstein Canada's 18% revenue growth proves transformation works, and share the 3 specific strategies that smart breed societies are using not just to survive, but to thrive in this consolidating industry. This isn't just another industry trend discussion. This is about the future survival of breed societies and whether they'll become indispensable profit partners or expensive nostalgia clubs. Let's dive in.
Welcome, everyone, to Thy Deep Dive. Today, we're really digging into something big. It's about this fundamental transformation, like a complete reshaping of the North American dairy industry. And we're not talking about just a temporary dip or, some minor market thing. This is, it feels like a complete, maybe irreversible change that's hitting even the oldest institutions. Our goal today, our mission, if you like, is to really unpack, the brutal mathematics of scale, efficiency, and survival, as one source put it. We want to understand what's driving these huge changes and, importantly, what it means for things like the traditional breed convention.
That's exactly right. And as we've gone through the research, looked at the dairy convention evolution research, and especially dug into the Bullvine article, the one called Dairy Societies, Evolve or Vanish, it just becomes so clear. That old one-size-fits-all model, the way a lot of the industry used to work, it's not cutting it anymore because the industry it was built for, that sort of unified group, honestly, it doesn't really exist like that now. It's fractured.
It really has. Completely different realities on the ground. Yeah. So we're going to dive deep into all this, really try to help you understand not just what's happening, but maybe more importantly, why it matters. Why it matters for, every single dairy operation out there, from the smallest family farm right up to the biggest commercial players. Okay, so let's start with the big signal, the thing that just screams massive shift. It's the vanishing dairy farm. I mean, when you look at the stats over the last, 30 years, it's not just a slow fade. It feels more like a systemic collapse in the number of farms. What are those raw numbers telling us?
Oh, the numbers they're staggering, honestly. It's hard to wrap your head on the scale of it. Think about this. Back in 1992, right, the U.S. had, let me check the exact figure, 131,535 commercial dairy herds, over 130,000. Now, fast forward just 30 years. The 2022 USDA Census of Ag, that number plummeted down to just 24,470 farms reporting milk sales.
Wait, from over 130,000 down to under 25,000.
Exactly. That's an 81.4% reduction. 81.4%. In just 3 decades. It's a catastrophic loss of independent farms. It's changed the whole landscape of rural areas.
That's almost unbelievable. And like you said, it's not just a slow decline. The really scary part maybe is that the pace is actually, it's picking up speed, right?
Yeah.
The biggest drop we've seen was actually pretty recent, wasn't it? Between 2017 and 2022?
That's right. That 5-year period, just 60 months. we saw a 39% fall in farm numbers. It went from just over 40,000 farms down to that 24,470 number. 39% in 5 years.
Wow. How does that compare to earlier periods?
Well, that's what makes it so stark. If you look back, say, between 2007 and 2012, the drop was around 27%. And even earlier, like 1992 to 1997, it was about 26%. So to jump to a 39% drop in just 5 years, that's unprecedented. It really tells you that the forces pushing farms out, they're getting stronger, not weaker. We're nowhere near settling into some kind of new normal here.
Okay, but here's where it gets really, really interesting. And maybe where that simple story of the disappearing family farm needs a bit more nuance. Because while the number of farms is plummeting, the total number of dairy cows in the country, that's stayed pretty stable, hasn't it? Around 9.4 million.
Remarkably stable. Yeah.
And total milk production, it keeps going up.
Yeah.
So what's the hidden story there? What's really going on?
That's the absolute core of it, that stability in cows and rising production while farms vanish. It tells you the industry isn't just shrinking. Its whole operating model is being replaced systematically. The traditional small or mid-sized family farm may be diversified, the kind that was the backbone for generations. It's being swapped out, replaced by much larger, much more specialized, and way more capital-intensive operations. It's a total structural overhaul, from diffuse and local to concentrated and industrial.
And you can see that perfectly in the average herd size numbers. It's almost shocking. Back in 1992, the average U.S. dairy herd was it 74 cows?
74 cows, yeah. Pretty modest, right? What most people picture.
Exactly. But by 2023, it surged to 357 cows on average. And the estimates for 2024 are pushing it even higher, like 377 cows.
That's nearly a 5-fold increase, 5 times bigger on average.
It's not just bigger farms. It's a fundamentally different kind of farm, a different business model. And that traditional average producer, the maybe 50 to 200 cow herd, they're now a statistical minority, kind of caught in the middle, squeezed between these two diverging realities.
Precisely, which leads us right into this concept of the Great Divide, the raw economics of survival. Because let's be honest, in the commodity milk market where margins are thin, scale isn't just a nice to have anymore. It's not just an edge, it's basically a prerequisite. You need scale to survive. And this huge gap has opened up in the cost of production. It's literally created a 2-tiered industry.
Okay, so how big is that gap? Can we put numbers on it?
Oh yeah. The USDA data from 2022 lays it out pretty starkly. Operations with 2,000 cows or more, these are the mega dairies, their average total cost of production was $23.06 per hundredweight. Per $100. Now, compare that to farms in that traditional range, say 100 to 199 cows. Their average cost, $32.83 per hundredweight.
$32.83 versus $23.06. That's almost $10 difference per 100 pounds of milk.
Exactly, $9.77 per hundredweight, to be precise. Nearly $10. That disadvantage for smaller farms selling into the same commodity market, it's not just significant, it's almost insurmountable if you're trying to compete just on price.
So where does that huge difference come from? Is it mostly feed costs? Because larger farms can buy feed cheaper? Or is something else driving it?
That's a really good question, because it's not just feed, although that's part of it. The feed cost difference is maybe around $2.50 per hundredweight. Still significant, but not the whole story. The really eye-watering number is the difference in non-feed costs. Things like labor, repairs, depreciation, utilities, all that stuff. That difference is a staggering $19.59 per hundredweight.
$19. Just on non-feed costs.
$19.59, yeah. It's massive. And that's where economies of scale really, really show up. Bigger operations can negotiate better prices on everything. Spread fixed costs like equipment or buildings over way more cows, specialize their labor force. It just drives down the cost per unit of milk dramatically.
Okay, so this cost difference must directly translate into who's actually making money, right?
Absolutely. It creates this kind of winner-take-all situation. There was a USDA Economic Research Service analysis back in 2016. It found that 62% of farms with 2,000 plus cows, they were generating gross returns that actually covered their total costs. They were genuinely profitable businesses. But for farms under 100 cows, that figure was less than 10%. Less than 1 in 10 were covering all their costs from operations.
So how do those smaller farms keep going then, if less than 10% are technically profitable?
Well, the hard reality is that many of them operate essentially by sacrificing returns on their own investment and, critically, their own labor. They're not making what a business would consider a fair return. It's often sustained by off-farm income or just incredibly long hours and accepting lower compensation for their own work. It's not always a strictly economic decision, you know. It might be legacy, lifestyle, but from a pure business standpoint, it's tough.
And we see those big average income numbers. Like the average net cash farm income for specialized dairies in 2022 was almost $750,000. But that number is misleading, isn't it?
Hugely misleading if you don't dig deeper, because that average is massively skewed upwards. It's driven overwhelmingly by the largest farms. About 36% of dairies had over $1 million in sales that year, and they captured the vast majority of the industry's total profits. So that average figure doesn't reflect the reality for most smaller or even mid-sized operations.
Right. And this profit concentration mirrors the concentration of milk production itself, doesn't it?
Perfectly. In 2022, farms with 1,000 cows or more, they are only about 8% of the total number of U.S. dairy farms, just 8%. But they produced 68% of the nation's milk supply.
Wow. 8% of farms making almost 70% of the milk.
It's incredible concentration. And think about how fast that happened. Go back to 1997. Large farms, maybe defined a bit differently then, but conceptually similar, held only 17% of the national herd. By 2022, that number jumped to 65%. 65% of all dairy cows are now on these large operations. Meanwhile, those smaller farms, under 100 cows, they went from holding 39% of the herd in 97 down to just 7% in 2022.
It's a complete flip, a
Yep.
total restructuring.
Exactly. And this is the absolute critical point for our discussion today. This bifurcation, this split, it's created two fundamentally distinct populations of dairy producers, and their needs, especially for things like professional development or information, they have almost zero overlap. So that one-size-fits-all approach, like a traditional breed convention trying to serve everyone, it just doesn't compute anymore. It can't work.
Okay, let's break that down. On one side, you've got the manager of a mega dairy, maybe thousands of cows, a multi-million-dollar budget. What do they need?
Their needs are sophisticated, high-level business needs. They're looking for cutting-edge business intelligence, advanced financial management tools and strategies, deep data analytics to optimize every single aspect of the operation. They need complex labor solutions because they might have dozens, even hundreds of employees. They need rigorous ROI assessments for any new technology they consider buying. And their time is incredibly scarce and valuable. Any professional development activity has to be an investment. It must deliver a clear, measurable return, often quite quickly. They need actionable insights for their bottom line, not just general information or social stuff.
Okay, so that's one side. What about the other side? The small herd survivor, maybe 100, 200 cows?
Their needs are completely different because they often can't compete in that commodity world. Their survival depends on getting out of that system, so they need very specific strategies for niche marketing. How do you succeed with organic grass-fed? A2 milk. They might be looking into value-added processing, making cheese, yogurt, bottling their own milk. Direct-to-consumer sales models are huge for them, ways to bypass the processors and capture more margin. And they need technology, yes, but technology that's viable and cost-effective at their scale. Maybe smaller robotic milking systems suitable for 100 to 500 cows, not the massive parlors needed for thousands. Their focus is escaping commodity pricing, not just becoming slightly more efficient within it.
So you see the problem, right? How does one single event, a traditional convention, maybe it has a cattle show, a few general talks, a banquet, how does that possibly meet the critical needs of both those groups?
It can't. It fundamentally cannot. The value proposition gets completely diluted. For the mega dairy manager, the content is probably too basic, the networking isn't targeted enough, the ROI is fuzzy at best. For the small herd niche producer, the focus on large-scale commodity production or genetics for that system is largely irrelevant. They need different information entirely. The whole structure, the format, the focus of the traditional convention, it's just misaligned with the polarized reality of dairy in 2024. It's out of sync.
And the whole process, this consolidation, it's not happening evenly across the map, is it? It's creating regional shifts too.
Oh, absolutely. It's causing a major geographic redistribution of milk production. It's really hollowing out some of the traditional dairy heartlands, the Midwest, the Northeast, while production and therefore economic influence is concentrating in new areas.
Which states have been hit hardest by these farm losses?
Well, the states you typically think of as dairy states have seen staggering losses, especially between 2017 and 2022. Wisconsin, America's dairyland, lost 2,740 farms in that 5-year window, just gone. Pennsylvania lost 1,570. New York lost 12,260. Minnesota lost 11,175. These aren't just numbers, it's part of their identity eroding. The landscape is changing.
That's devastating. But where is production growing then? Or consolidating.
You see growth, or at least much slower declines, combined with huge increases in cow numbers in states often more favorable to very large-scale confinement operations. Texas is a prime example. They only lost 80 farms between 2017 and 2022, but over the last decade, they added almost 200,000 cows. Huge increase in capacity. And even in states with big overall losses, like California, New York, even Wisconsin, the number of mega dairies, say over 2,500 cows, actually increased during that same period. California added 57 of them, New York 16, Wisconsin 14. So consolidation is happening everywhere, but the growth of this new large-scale model is really concentrated in certain regions.
Okay, so this isn't just about milk map changing. This shifts the whole center of gravity for the industry, culturally, politically, even within breed associations, right?
Exactly. Historically, the Midwest and Northeast, with their dense populations of mid-sized farms, had disproportionate influence in breed associations. Their needs, their culture, often set the agenda. But now, as the cow numbers, the milk production, the economic power shifts to these massive operations in the West and Southwest, their needs are going to start dominating, or they should if the associations want to stay relevant. This is the huge challenge for breed associations. Many are still headquartered, still culturally rooted in those traditional areas. They have to adapt their programs, their services, their leadership focus to reflect this new reality. If they don't, they risk alienating the fastest growing, most economically significant part of the industry. And they'll end up just serving a shrinking base, becoming regionally isolated, almost like a historical society, instead of an active industry player.
Let's look at that table comparing 2017 and 2022 farm numbers again. Those percentage changes really drive home the regional impact.
They really do. Wisconsin, 9,090 farms down to 6,350. That's a 30.1% drop, almost a third gone in 5 years.
Pennsylvania, 6,570 down to 5,000. That's a 23.9% loss. Still massive.
New York, 4,470 down to 3,210. That's 28.2% gone. Consistent pattern.
And Minnesota had one of the worst percentage drops, right?
Yeah. Minnesota went from 3,210 farms down to just 2,035. That's a loss of 1,175 farms, but percentage-wise, it's a staggering 36.6% reduction. Over a third of their dairies disappeared in 5 years.
Okay, now contrast that with some of the other states you mentioned. California.
California dropped from 4,390 farms to 1,115. That's a loss of 275 farms, or about 19.8%. Still a decline, yes, but a significantly slower rate than the upper Midwest. And remember, they added mega dairies during this time. It's consolidation.
Idaho.
Similar story. 500 farms down to 400. A loss of 100, or 20.0%. Consolidation into larger units.
And Texas.
Texas went from 560 farms down to 480. Only an 80 farm drop, or 14.3%. The smallest percentage decline on that list, while simultaneously adding huge numbers of cows. These numbers just paint such a clear picture of this uneven impact, this geographic shift, and it really highlights the urgent need for breed associations to figure out how they serve this new landscape or risk becoming, just irrelevant footnotes.
Okay, so we've mapped out these huge shifts across the industry, consolidation, the economic divide, geographic changes. Now let's zoom in on the traditional dairy breed convention itself. Because all these changes put it in a really, really tough spot. It feels like essentially an analog model, maybe a beautifully crafted one from the past, but struggling hard to find its place in this digital, data-driven, polarized industry we just described.
That's a perfect way to put it. And the simplest, most direct measure of how any event is doing, it's attendance. And by that measure, honestly, the traditional breed convention seems to be, ailing. Let's look at some recent numbers our sources pulled together. The 2024 National Holstein Convention, that's the biggest breed, often seen as the bellwether, it drew about 700 attendees. Respectable, sure, but maybe not huge in the grand scheme of things.
And it goes down from there for other breeds.
Right, pretty significantly. At the 2024 National Brown Swiss Convention, around 200 people. The National Ayrshire Convention that same year was reported as having hundreds, probably similar, maybe low hundreds. Now look, these attendees are obviously the dedicated core, the loyal members, and that's important. But compare those numbers
to the big agricultural shows.
Exactly. The 2023 World Dairy Expo, 56,250 attendees. 56,000. The National FFA Convention in 2023, which is youth-focused, almost 73,000 people. Even the Commodity Classic Trade Show in 2024 pulled in over 11,500 farmers and industry folks. The scale difference is it's monumental. It's not just more people, it's a different kind of event attracting them.
That disparity is huge. And the key point here maybe is that this isn't just farmers being apathetic about their breeds, it's more of a a rational market choice, isn't it?
Absolutely. Producers are voting with their feet and maybe more importantly with their wallets in their extremely limited time. They're choosing to invest that time and money in larger, more diverse events where they can see a wider range of technologies, genetics from all breeds, and network across the entire spectrum of things they need for their business.
Right, because a modern dairy manager, especially from a big operation, needs to connect with people in feed, tech, finance, data management, all of it.
Precisely. A single breed event, just by definition, has a narrower scope compared to something like World Dairy Expo, which has that massive trade show covering everything, seminars on all sorts of topics, plus all the breeds are there. So it's not apathy driving lower convention attendance, it's producers making a calculated economic decision. They're asking, where do I get the biggest bang for my buck? Where's the best return on my investment of time and money? And increasingly, the answer isn't the traditional breed convention.
And this trend obviously puts enormous financial strain on the breed associations themselves. Looking at their financials gives a sense of this pressure. Holstein USA, the biggest, had revenues around $17.8 million in 2023.
Right. But then you look at Brown Swiss, around $746,000 in revenue. Ayrshire Breeders Association, just over $252,000. And remember, that revenue has to cover everything they do, herd books, registrations, genetic services, magazines, youth programs, the whole 9 yards. The national convention is usually a major line item expense. And historically, it was also supposed to be a key source of non-dues revenue, things like registration fees, which can be $200, $350 a person, plus corporate sponsorships.
So if attendance is flat or falling, but costs are staying high or even rising, the whole financial model for the convention gets shaky.
Exactly. It becomes questionable whether hosting this big multi-day national event is financially sustainable. It puts associations in a tough spot, pouring resources into a flagship event that might only be appealing to a shrinking slice of their membership while the cost to put it on don't really go down. It's a classic diminishing returns problem for the association itself.
Okay, beyond the money, there's the people factor. The kind of person running a dairy farm today is changing, and their expectations for professional development are changing too.
Fundamentally changing, yeah.
And that traditional convention model, multi-day, in-person, lots of social stuff, big focus on the cattle show, it feels increasingly out of step with what this new generation needs or wants.
It really does. Demographically, we see that shift. The average U.S. farmer is about 58, but the average dairy farmer is younger, around 51. That tells you a new generation is taking over. Plus, you've got the rise of the professional farm manager. Maybe they're an employee, not the owner, maybe overseeing multiple sites. Their motivations are different. We even see it at World Dairy Expo. 41% of attendees there identify as agribusiness professionals, not just farmers. They're business managers first, maybe breed enthusiasts second, if at all.
And how do these younger managers or professionals prefer to learn? It's probably not sitting in seminars for 3 days straight.
Definitely not. They're digital natives, right? They prefer, or at least are very comfortable with, on-demand, flexible content. Research shows a preference for blended learning, mixing online convenience with targeted in-person stuff. One survey even found farmers preferred short online courses, maybe offered in the evening so it doesn't disrupt the farm's schedule. Sure, hands-on training is still valuable for certain things, but e-learning, that's seen as practical, efficient, fits into their lives better. They want info when they need it, not just when the convention happens to be scheduled.
So you've got this basic mismatch, the traditional convention, multiple days away, heavy social focus, cattle show centerpiece. The modern manager, time is their scarcest resource. They're data-driven. They need efficiency. They prefer flexible learning.
It's a huge mismatch. The opportunity cost for that millennial or Gen X manager to take several days off from a 247 operation, it's massive, especially if the schedule seems packed with social events or a show, rather than just wall-to-wall, high-impact, actionable content they can use immediately. The ROI on their time just isn't there.
They need stuff they can apply right away. Less focus on the traditions, maybe.
Yeah, I think so. They're driven by efficiency, by data, by outcomes. They need actionable information to improve the bottom line, streamline things, the rituals, the traditions, the purely aesthetic parts of the old convention. Maybe less appealing, less relevant to their day-to-day business challenges. The whole structure, the length, the rhythm, the priorities, it just feels out of sync with the workflow and the mindset of the people running the most progressive, economically important farms today. It's like trying to use a rotary phone in the smartphone era.
Which brings us right back to that ROI equation. Justifying the time off the farm. Because for that modern manager running a serious business, every decision gets filtered through that return on investment lens. Attending an event is no different. And when you really crunch the numbers, the traditional convention often struggles to make the cut, doesn't it?
It really does. The hard costs are easy to see, right? Registration, $200, $350, flights, hotel, meals. That adds up fast. But like you said earlier, the bigger cost, the one that's harder to pin down but very real, is the opportunity cost. Several days away from running a complex multi-million-dollar business, that's a huge investment of their attention, their management time. That's the real hidden expense.
And compared to those clear costs, the benefits of the traditional convention networking community, they're important, sure, but they're kind of soft, hard to quantify.
Exactly. They're often soft, indirect, difficult to put a dollar value on in a way that satisfies a hard-nosed business analysis. How much is that handshake actually worth to the bottom line next quarter? It's tough to say. And that stands in really sharp contrast to other investments they could make with that same time and money, investments that often have much clearer, predictable, measurable ROI.
Because modern producers think in terms of payback periods, right? They want to see a return on tech investments in maybe 2-5 years. They target maybe a 10% return on capital for major purchases.
Precisely. It's all about measurable outcomes. So when that manager is weighing their options, where do I spend my limited professional development budget and time?
Option A, spend maybe a few $1,000s in 3-4 days at the convention with benefits that are, let's be honest, a bit fuzzy on the ROI front.
Or option B, invest that same time and money in something with a direct, trackable impact. Maybe it's a targeted online course on feed efficiency where you can project the cost savings. Maybe it's new sensor tech for repro with data showing improved conception rates. Maybe it's genomic testing across the heifer herd with a clear projection for boosting genetic merit and future production.
For the data-driven manager making a rational economic choice, the clear ROI wins, right?
It wins every time. The investment with the defensible, measurable return beats the one with soft, unquantifiable benefits. And unfortunately, the traditional convention, with its heavy emphasis on social connection and tradition over measurable business impact, increasingly falls into that second category. For the most business-focused producers, it becomes an unjustifiable expense of both time and money.
Okay, so maybe the biggest, most fundamental challenge to the whole convention model comes from technology. Specifically, the genetic revolution. For like a century, the absolute centerpiece of these conventions was the cattle show, right? That's where you saw the best genetics, where confirmation was king.
This is the pinnacle, yeah. Visual appraisal was the primary tool for identifying and promoting elite animals.
But that function, it's been almost completely taken over by the science of genomics, hasn't it?
Almost entirely. The impact of genomic selection since it really hit the mainstream around 2009, it's been nothing short of revolutionary for dairy breeding, a total paradigm shift. It hasn't just changed things, it's dramatically accelerated genetic progress and fundamentally altered how breeding decisions get made. It moved from being partly an art to almost purely a data science.
And the numbers back that up, right? The speed of genetic gain is basically doubled.
Effectively doubled, yeah. The data is crystal clear. If you look at the industry standard net merit index, NM1, which predicts lifetime profitability before genomics really took hold, the average annual gain was about $40 per year since 2010. That average annual gain has jumped to $85, more than double the rate of progress year after year. That adds up to way more profitable cows much faster.
How did genomics achieve that speed up?
Primarily by slashing the generation interval. That's the time it takes to identify the best animals and get them reproducing. For sires of bulls, which is a key path for spreading genetics fast, the generation interval used to be around 7.5 years. Now, it's plunged to just 2.5 years.
Wow, from 7.5 years down to 2.5.
Yeah. Think about that compounding effect. You're getting multiple generations of improvement in the time it used to take for just one. It's incredible efficiency.
And it's not just faster, it's more accurate too, right?
Yeah.
Especially for young animals.
Much more accurate. The reliability of genomic predictions for young bulls, before they even have daughters milking, is now twice what it used to be based just on their parents' averages. This means breeders can use young sires with way more confidence much earlier. It streamlines everything, reduces risk.
And critically, genomics lets you select for things you could never really judge accurately in a show ring.
Absolutely. Today's breeding decisions are based on this complex dashboard of traits. Production, yeah, fat, protein, but also, hugely important now, health traits. Mastitis resistance, cow livability, resistance to metabolic diseases, and fertility traits. Daughter pregnancy rate, calving ease, stillbirth rates. confirmation traits. They're still in the indexes, sure, but they're weighted based on their proven economic link to things like longevity or health, not just on subjective prettiness. It's about function and profitability, not just form.
So what does this actually mean for the cattle show, the centerpiece of the convention?
It means, frankly, that the show ring's role as the primary tool for identifying and marketing commercially relevant elite genetics, that role is gone. It's obsolete. It's now more like, well, like we said, a beauty contest or a marketing event or a social gathering for enthusiasts, which is fine. There's value in that for some people. But as a serious driver of genetic progress for the commercial dairy industry, its time has passed, and that completely undermines the historical justification for the show being the central, most resource-heavy part of the convention. Its core purpose has been replaced by data and science.
So in this genomic age, the real currency is data. Genetic progress isn't abstract anymore. It's something you can measure and put a dollar value on.
Exactly. It's a line item on the P&L. The most successful producers now are basically sophisticated data managers. They're the ones who can effectively gather all this data, integrate it, and then act on it to make smarter, faster, more profitable breeding decisions.
Can you give an example of that value? Like, what's a genetic gain actually worth?
Sure. In New Zealand, they calculate that an 11-unit increase in their BW index is worth about $11 extra profit per 5 tons of dry matter eaten. Pretty direct. Here in North America, studies show that increasing genetic merit for fat yield by just 1 kilogram, that's worth somewhere between $25 and $36 in extra lifetime profit per cow. Now, multiply that across a herd year after year. The accumulated value of consistently using better genetics over 10 years for an average herd. It's estimated at over $250,000.
That's serious money.
It's real money. And progressive farmers know this. They're not just picking bulls from a catalog anymore. They're genomically testing their own heifers at birth to decide which ones to keep, which ones to breed, maybe which ones get elite matings using IVF. They're meticulously tracking performance data through DHI milk yield, components, health events to see how those genetics actually perform in their environment. And now they're starting to integrate real-time data from on-farm tech, like robotic milkers that track daily yield, milking speed, even conductivity for mastitis detection for every single cow. This opens up selection for totally new traits related to efficiency and health.
So this data explosion, it creates a huge challenge, but also maybe a huge opportunity for the breed associations. Their old role isn't enough anymore.
Not even close. Their traditional role is just keeper of the pedigree and organizer of the show. That's insufficient for the commercial producers driving the industry. The farmers winning today are the ones synthesizing genomics, farm performance data, economic signals. It's complex. The opportunity for breed associations is to become the facilitator of that synthesis, to provide the tools, the platforms, the intelligence to help members make sense of it all.
That Bovine article really hit on this, didn't it? Saying societies can't be isolated.
Yeah, it hammered that point home. It said the dairy cattle improvement industry is changing fast due to new technology and shifting priorities. Breed societies cannot be isolated or have a standalone approach. It argued they need to accept how things are changing and figure out their role by 2030 and beyond. The future, it suggests, isn't hosting shows. It's becoming a hub for data integration and intelligence. The new convention, in a way, is this virtual meeting place for data, accessible 24/7, not just a physical meeting place for people once a year. The associations that build that platform, they'll be indispensable. The ones that don't, they risk fading away.
Okay, so the picture is pretty clear. The traditional convention model is struggling, maybe fundamentally broken for the industry as it exists today. Consolidation, technology like genomics, a new generation with different needs, it all points to breed societies being at this major crossroads. Evolve or, face extinction, as the Bovine article put it. So the path forward has to involve some radical rethinking, right? Not just tinkering around the edges. Bold innovation seems necessary.
Absolutely necessary. Incremental changes aren't going to cut it. It requires reimagining the core purpose, the business model, the whole event strategy. And while maybe the dairy breed world has been a bit slow on the uptake here, other industries, other agricultural sectors even, offer some really interesting blueprints for how to build value and engage members effectively today. These models move away from that old one-size-fits-all event towards something more flexible, more targeted, more tech-enabled.
Okay, let's explore some of those. What's the first case study? The hybrid model.
Yeah, case study 1, the hybrid event model.
Yeah.
Think about major tech conferences like HubSpot's Ironbound or Viva Tech over in Europe. They've really mastered combining a maybe smaller but very high-value in-person event with a really robust, content-rich virtual experience that reaches a much wider audience.
So how does that work strategically? They split the audience or the purpose?
Exactly. They bifurcate it. The in-person part becomes more exclusive, maybe more expensive, focused on high-level networking, strategic discussions, really intensive hands-on workshops, things that truly benefit from being face-to-face. But then the virtual component, through a great online platform, gives broad access. Thousands of people can tune in for technical deep dives, research updates, keynote streams, on-demand content, all at a lower cost and without needing to travel. It optimizes the value for different needs and budgets.
So how could a breed society apply that, transform the annual convention?
They could. Imagine the traditional convention splitting into two parts. Maybe an in-person leadership summit. Smaller, maybe 100, 200 top producers, key industry partners, focused on strategy, finance, big picture stuff, premium experience, and then simultaneously or spread out, a virtual technical conference, fully online. Thousands of members could access sessions on genomics, nutrition, data management, new tech for a much lower fee. This respects people's time and budget constraints while still offering that high-touch element for a core group.
And financially, that makes sense too. Diversifies revenue.
Big time.
Yeah.
You're not just relying on physical attendees. You open up new digital sponsorship tiers. You lower the overall cost per attendee reached. You expand your global reach. You get better data on what content resonates. It's just a much more modern, sustainable model.
Okay, what's the next potential blueprint? Something more farm-focused.
Right. Case study 2. The data-driven on-farm showcase. Think about initiatives like Western Growers' work with automation tech out in California. This model shifts the focus entirely away from the hotel ballroom and puts it right onto the farm. Instead of just talking about new tech or genetics, they partner with innovative farms to show it working in the real world. And crucially, they provide the actual performance data, the ROI data, right there.
So it's less presentation, more demonstration. Seeing is believing.
Exactly, and producers relate to that. Plus, these events are often regional, which makes them easier to get to, more relevant to local conditions. So for a breed society, instead of one big national show, maybe they organize a series of regional smart genetics field days. Host them at progressive member farms that are already integrating top genetics with things like robots, automated feeders, sensor systems. The whole focus is tangible results. Here's the efficiency gain. Here are the component yields. Here's the health improvement. Here's the ROI on this combined strategy.
And the association wouldn't have to do it all alone.
No, that's key. This model thrives on partnerships. You collaborate with the tech companies Lilly, De Laval, Cemex, Zoetis, whoever. You partner with university research groups like that WKU Smart Holstein lab. They co-host, co-fund. It reduces the burden on the association, plus it brings the experts right there for the attendees. It makes the learning super practical, super relevant, right where the work happens.
Makes sense. What's the third model? Something more digital.
Yeah, case study 3, the year-round digital knowledge hub. Look at how organizations like the FAO share information or concepts around virtual ag markets. This model envisions the association's digital platform, its website, its apps, not just as static brochures, but as continuous dynamic hubs. Places for knowledge sharing, community building, even commerce, operating 24/7.
So the main benefit of being a member isn't the convention discount anymore. It's access to this digital ecosystem.
Precisely. The primary value shifts to year-round, on-demand access. The convention, if there still is one, becomes just one feature of the platform, not the other way around. A forward-thinking breed society should be investing heavily in a top-notch digital platform that offers, say, a library of e-learning courses, genomics, financial management, niche marketing, whatever members need, on-demand webinars, premium data tools, subscription access maybe, tools for benchmarking herd performance against others anonymously, mating program simulators, ROI calculators for different breeding strategies, real decision support tools.
That sounds powerful. Could it even include selling genetics?
Absolutely. A curated, commission-based online marketplace for elite genetics. Embryos, IVF, semen from member herds, all with deep genomic data, maybe performance data attached. Transparent. Efficient. It helps members market their best genetics, and it provides a direct revenue stream for the association, turning member progress into shared value.
And this whole digital hub model, financially, it's more stable.
Much more resilient. You have diversified revenue, subscriptions for data tools, transaction fees from the marketplace, maybe corporate sponsorships tied to specific content or data initiatives. It's far less vulnerable to one bad event, 1 year of low attendance. It's a sustainable, year-round business model, like successful modern membership organizations in other fields.
To actually make any of these shifts happen, though, leadership needs to listen
Yeah.
to different voices.
Critically important, more than ever. They need candid input from all corners, from their own leadership who've maybe faced challenges, like the Ayrshire Association having to go virtual in 2020. What did they really learn from that? Financially, logistically, that's valuable intel.
And from the progressive farmers themselves, what do they find valuable?
Yeah, look at events like that Positive Farmers Dairy Conference in Ireland. Their whole focus is progressive farmers seeking insights and strategies for future challenges, aiming for profitable dairy production while maintaining a balanced lifestyle. That tells you right there, there's demand for practical bottom-line content focused on business success and sustainability.
And you have to listen to the critics too, right? Like the Bullvine article.
You have to, even if it stings. That article warning about record losses in revenue and associations being outpaced by tech and member demands, that's framing the need for change as pure survival. It's a necessary wake-up call.
What about the tech side? What are tech leaders saying?
People like Stefano Ritor, formerly at ADM, talk about agriculture needing to get over its historical reluctance to collaborate on data. He sees associations potentially playing that key role as trusted, neutral data hubs. And you see ag tech companies like Connectera or Inari already building tools to turn complex data into usable insights for farmers. That's the direction things are going. Associations need to be part of that data flow, not outside it.
And finally, the next generation, the youth winners, talking about giving back. What will they expect when they're running the show?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Will they value the traditions their parents did? Or will they demand a digital native efficiency-focused association that speaks their language, uses the tools they use, and delivers measurable value for their businesses?
Right.
Their expectations will absolutely shape whether these associations are relevant in 10, 20 years.
Okay, so to pull this together, for breed societies to have a viable future, say by 2030, they need a major overhaul. Financial strategy, membership value, and definitely the whole convention concept.
It's a strategic pivot. First, financially, they have to move from being just event hosts to being indispensable value hubs. That means diversifying revenue. Get away from just relying on registrations and sponsorships for one big event. Build resilient income streams.
Like offering paid services, premium data analysis, consulting.
Exactly. Fee for service for things like advanced herd benchmarking, maybe custom mating program consultations, selling online courses, certifications, digital toolkits. And that genetics marketplace, a commission-based platform for embryos, IVF, semen with deep data, monetize the membership's genetic progress.
And shift corporate support from just sponsoring the banquet to more year-round partnerships.
Yes. Tiered partnerships, giving companies access to the digital platform, data insights, co-branded educational content. More stable, more integrated, more valuable for everyone.
And redefining membership itself, the value proposition.
Fundamentally, the main reason to be a member can't just be a discount to the convention anymore. It has to be about accessing indispensable data, tools, intelligence. The product the association delivers becomes genetic and management intelligence. That's sticky value. It gets integrated into how members run their business every day. Renewal becomes a no-brainer.
And using modern tools to keep members engaged. Personalizing things.
For sure. Data-driven engagement. Tailoring communications based on herd size, interests, goals. Creating a seamless digital experience. Recognizing that for many, the community is going to be online forums, webinars, shared data platforms, not just once a year in a hotel ballroom. Meet them where they are.
Okay, so that's the membership and finance side.
Right.
What about the convention itself? You mentioned a portfolio approach.
Right. Ditch the idea of one big monolithic event trying to be everything to everyone. Replace it with a portfolio. Maybe that hub and spoke model we talked about.
The hub being a smaller, high-level summit.
Yeah, an exclusive annual leadership summit. Top 10, 15% of producers, key partners, focused on strategy, finance, policy, high-level peer networking, premium event.
And the spokes are more accessible events.
Exactly. Smaller, more frequent, more targeted.
Right.
Things like regional on-farm showcases, those data-driven field days showing tech and genetics in action, specialized webinars and workshops online focused on specific technical topics, easy to access from anywhere.
And hybrid is non-negotiable.
Absolutely non-negotiable. Every single in-person event needs a high-quality virtual component. Live streaming, on-demand access, maximize reach, maximize value, accommodate everyone. It's just standard practice now.
So looking ahead to 2030, It really feels like two possible paths for these associations.
Starkly different paths. Yeah. Path number one, they cling to tradition. They keep trying to do the convention the old way, maybe just scale it back a bit. What happens? Conventions shrink, membership ages and declines, finances get tighter and tighter, they become irrelevant to the commercial industry. Maybe they survive as historical societies, hobby clubs, custodians of the past, but no role in the future.
Okay, that's the bleak path. What's path number two?
Path number two, bold transformation. They fully embrace this new role as data and intelligence hubs. They become indispensable partners, providing the tool and insights farmers need for 21st century dairying. Their convention becomes this year-round, multi-platform ecosystem, digital hub, leadership summit, regional showcases, online learning. By genuinely serving the real needs of the modern industry, they become more vital, more influential, and actually more financially secure.
The choice is theirs.
The choice is theirs, and the clock is ticking. Hashtag outro.
So we've really covered a lot of ground today in this deep dive, looking at this massive transformation in North American dairy. And it's undeniable, isn't it? This isn't some small shift. It's a complete reshaping, driven by consolidation, that huge economic divide, and the genetic revolution, basically making the show ring obsolete for commercial breeding.
Yeah, and let's bring back that brutal math one last time, because it really hits home. Think about the cost of attending a traditional convention. The Bullvine article put it at $500 or more per person, easy, when you add up registration, travel, hotel, food, and especially that opportunity cost of lost time on the farm and the direct measurable impact of that $500 plus investment on your herd's milk yield or genetic progress. Pretty much zero, scientifically speaking.
Okay, now compare that to genomic testing. The article mentions it costs under $60 an animal, but the documented return on investment through faster genetic gain, better culling, smarter breeding, it's cited as 150-200%.
So for that data-driven farmer making smart business decisions, where does your limited capital and time go? The $500 plus for the convention with fuzzy ROI, or the $60 for the test with 150% plus ROI? The numbers really do speak for themselves, don't they?
They really do. So maybe the actionable insight for you listening right now is this. Take a minute, seriously. Calculate your own cost per engaged member for the traditional events you go to. Be honest. Include everything: registration, travel, meals, lodging, and definitely put a value on your time away from the farm. Then compare that number to the provable ROI of other things you could invest in: specific training, technology, genomic testing. See how they stack up. The results might surprise you.
And that leads to the final, maybe provocative thought we want to leave you with. What kind of breed society do you actually want to be part of in 2030? Do you want one that clings to, let's call it, tradition without relevance, celebrating the past while the industry moves on? Or do you want one that leads the industry forward? One that embraces data over dogma, results over ribbons, and maybe, just maybe, profit over pageantry?
Because the future of these vital institutions, and maybe even a part of the future of the dairy industry itself, really depends on that choice.
Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.
We'll see you next time.
That's a wrap on today's episode of the Bullvine Podcast. If this discussion has you questioning your own breed society's relevance or calculating the ROI on your last convention attendance, that's exactly the point. The dairy industry is evolving at breakneck speed, and the organizations that serve it must evolve too. Whether you're a breed society executive, a progressive dairy farmer, or an industry stakeholder, the message is clear. Data beats dogma, results beat ribbons, and profit beats pageantry. Remember, the most successful dairy operations of 2030 will be supported by breed societies that embrace transformation today. The question isn't whether this change will happen, it's whether your association will lead it or be buried by it. For more bold, data-driven dairy industry insights that challenge the status quo, visit us at www.thebullvine.com. Subscribe to our newsletter, join the conversation, and never miss our latest analysis that puts your profitability first. This has been the Bullvine Podcast, where sacred cows meet their match, and your success is our mission. Until next time, keep questioning everything and demanding measurable results.